All right, hello and welcome to the is this the fourth episode? The fourth episode of the BWG podcast. I'm the W, Stephen Waters,
And I'm the B, Nick Borsch.
and our
And
G
the
I'm the A,
is here.
Angus.
No.
No, it's the G for guest. It's Angus Guest. No, Angus Chandler, our friend who's actually in the Navy. So it's kind of exciting.
Yeah.
We haven't actually gotten.
I was gonna say, so just a background. This podcast wouldn't be in existence without Angus. Angus is the link between the B and the W.
I'm the
this is
missing link.
true.
You really are. Maybe
Yeah.
we should. Maybe I think we should just totally rebrand this, and we do B and then parentheses A.
You know how
WG
Amazon has like the A and the Z,
Yes.
and we need to put like an A as like an arrow down. Like,
Can I be the
in our
exponent
logo.
next to one of the
Yeah.
yeah.
That's what we're doing. All right, new logo. We'll have to
BWG
hit
to
up
the
our-
power of A.
our graphic designer. But yeah, no. So I guess this is a cool little story. Me and Angus played rec soccer together because I'm unathletic and bad at sports, and Angus and Nick played their soccer together on their high school team.
And I played rec soccer because I liked imposing the fact that I was better than other kids.
Yes.
Just to feed
So-
the ego.
So me and Angus ended up becoming friends, and then Angus and Nick were friends, and we ended up via Xbox Live. Kind of, me and Nick kind of, came to be.
Your classic Disney fairy tale.
It's honestly, he's my Prince Charming. I'm like a Cinderella, I guess. So
Yeah, I guess
I'm definitely a Cinderella story, dude. I'm coming up in the
you're
world.
on the come up.
Speaking of which, I saw the you guys definitely saw it too, the Wreck-It Ralph 2 promo where all the princesses come back in.
Yeah, that's pretty.
That
good.
scene was
I liked
actually
it.
out of the trailer. I was like, okay, kids movie, whatever. But out of that trailer, it was pretty funny because they're all like pointing at the stereotypes of like princesses in past movies. And I found out the other day that all of those princesses and in the movie are voiced by the actual actresses, the voice actresses who
dude.
did them when they made the movies. Like they got
Yeah,
everyone
man,
all the way
That's
back.
actually, even like Pocahontas and shit. That's actually really cool. I didn't know that. I also just love that like in that trailer they just make fun of the title.
Yeah,
Like in the Wreck-It Ralph trailer, like they're like breaks the internet. They're like, shouldn't it be Rick's the internet? Like it's pretty funny.
nah, it's a thing.
Yeah, no, it's actually a pretty good trailer. I liked it a lot. I watched The Incredibles too, so that's when
You
I
saw
saw
Incredibles
it.
too?
I saw it as
How-
well.
I saw it opening day. It was great.
I did.
Wow.
Yeah, I went the night it opened, and I was so happy.
Yeah.
Without going
good
too
song.
far into the depth, it was
I'm
just
actually
like,
gonna. That's good.
Yeah,
I'm
it was
gonna see
actually
Sunday.
It was super fun. Like it was funny, and it was really good.
You
know.
went in-
I didn't like it as much as the people I saw it with, because like I think they were like kind of blown away. I just thought it was like really good. So I guess I gotta always be like a little bit like things less than.
you know,
everyone.
you come in and you see Disney on something, and you kind of have an expectation, like it's gonna be a certain amount of like, this movie's gonna not blow your mind, but at least be pretty entertaining. And I think
You pretty much expect Disney movies to always be good.
yeah,
That's true.
you don't go into a Disney movie thinking it's going to be poorly funded or they're not going to have some type of aesthetic value to it. And it was a good superhero movie. I'm not going to like walk out saying this is like the best Kaiser Soze twist ever. Like, oh my God. But yeah, everything about
they
the
do
movie
that,
is just so much fun.
They do have like a couple things that like Disney does a lot. I don't want to spoil anything for our boy Nick here, so I won't go into it. But there's a couple like Disneyisms that are in the movie that kind of got me. So that's our review of Incredibles 2. Please like, comment, and subscribe below. Let us know what you thought about the Incredibles 2.
And this is our 5-minute podcast. So
all right.
Thanks for tuning in.
All right, we already did that joke. We can't do it again.
Can we make it at the
we should
10-minute
just
mark again?
Just every week we should be like, that's the end of it, like at 5 minutes in, no matter what. No, so, and 1 week we'll actually end it, and we'll just like have like an hour of black space of no audio or anything, just to mess with people. But anyway, what we were really interested in getting Angus on, I mean, because he's our friend, but also because he's got interesting things to talk about. Because you, Angus, you just joined the military, right? Well, I know you did.
Yes, that was a secret actually. You just blew my cover.
Oh, shit. Oh, no. No, we'll just cut that part out. But yeah,
the 22 years in training is all just went to waste because of this one podcast.
Oh no, there's not enough viewers. I don't think we'd be considered. I don't think this is considered breaking cover.
You know, some of those higher ups, they just go on YouTube every once in a while and look for obscure podcasts.
They just type in. They just go on and they're like, I'm gonna type in 3 random letters and we're gonna see if Angus is on there. Just to make sure.
Let's skip right ahead to episode 4. Right, get to the real meat and potatoes.
All right. But no, so yeah, that's actually, it's really interesting because you've told me, and I'm sure you've talked to Nick about it. Talk about your training and stuff. I always thought that was really interesting. So can you just talk about like getting into the Navy, like when that happened, why you did that,
Yeah.
what you're going in as?
So first off, it's just
No
like,
national security secrets,
Yeah.
obviously.
So first off, it's just kind of like, I think everyone at least gives it some thought whether or not you want to do it at some point in your life. And I felt like where I was coming right out of college, I was like, I can either go into law enforcement because I wanted to do something where I could have a meaningful career and kind of be like proud of what I did, and also didn't want to be like flat broke at the end of my time. So like teachers, obviously, I have a lot of respect for because they don't get paid a ton, but they do something that's really meaningful. And I felt like law enforcement was kind of my gig. And as I was getting out of college, I was realizing like your first couple years are going to be shitty no matter what you go into. And I was like, if it's going to suck, why not do the military? Because that's going to propel you further in your career. So couple conversations with my recruiter. He tricks me into signing a couple papers and says blah blah blah. So December rolls around and I go up to Newport, and these really friendly chaps in the Navy that have been in for like 20 years, just some hardcore mofos, and they just yell at me for a couple months, tell me to do some push-ups, and get my whole mind right as far as just being serious with everything, attention to detail, fold your clothes a certain way, you have no freedom, you got to earn everything and work your way up from like being this scumbag to the end of your training to be like a member of the Navy. And that's just kind of like one of those confidence things, they build you all the way up. And I finished that, so I'm an officer now.
Wait, so I have a quick question. What's the fail rate there, right? Because that's the first point of like, because you're not even really in the Navy there. That's just testing you to see if you're, you have what it takes to really start your career path.
Yeah, so the fail rate there actually isn't very high. What separates a lot of people is when you apply, not everyone gets in. So those people that are applying for what I went through already have a college degree, and you send in an application. So like, it depends on what you want to do in the Navy. They call it your designator. So like you'll be intelligence or aviation, or you go to the SEALs. So you apply, and the certain designators have higher rates, and more or less it's around 40-50% for everything for the people that apply. And then you go to OCS, and that's where it's only like 15% of people are going to get weeded out, whether it be for a health reason or it's because you don't want to continue. And then you go on to your training after that, and it's like, so the guys that are buds that were from my class right now, they have like a 10% success rate. Down here for aviation, I know it's like 20% of people aren't going to finish their training. And
sorry, what was the thing that had like a 10% success rate?
So that's the SEALs. It's called BUDS. It's basic underwater demolition and survival. I forget the S's, but yeah. So the attrition rates aren't a lot right up front, but then they invest a lot in you. So they're going to do everything they can to make sure that you're the right person before they start pumping all this money into you. So the process before I even got to go to OCS was very thorough, very long, and it felt like forever. But now, so I'm here down in Pensacola, and you kind of bounce between ground school, where you learn about aerodynamics and things that I have no right to be able to claim to know because I'm a criminal justice major, and this shit is so over my head. And then you'll go into another week, like next week I'm doing water survival, and then you also fly, obviously. And it's kind of like, you'll go 1 week where you get stressed out about tests and everything of that nature, saying I failed this, I'm out of the program, I've been in for such a long time. And then you go the next week and you're like in an airplane and you're thinking, oh God, I hope something doesn't go wrong, but you're kind of more confident about that. There's a running joke with everyone that I'm here with that we're all more afraid of failing something and getting in trouble with the higher ups than we are of dying. Like if a plane was to crash, we'd be like, shit, something went wrong, probably my fault. Oh well, I'm dead. I don't have to finish the training. It's kind of rigorous. It's pretty bad, but it's not the worst thing on the planet. But we kind of like play up a little more. So
okay, so
it's
I got a couple
yeah.
questions. So I'm not sure if it was stated, but you're training to become a naval pilot, right? So that like how many different paths? Like I know that you kind of alluded to. You could be like a SEAL,
Or are you trying to be a pilot or like a
or
flight
yeah.
officer?
So
Right? Because I've
yes,
always
so I'm going to be a flight officer, and the easiest way to think of it is in the movie Top Gun, you got Maverick and Goose, and Maverick controls the plane, he manipulates how it moves, and then Goose does
Mhm.
everything with navigation and the weapons. And I'm
And so
going for
you'd
Goose.
probably be Goose.
I will be
All
you,
right.
yeah,
So try not to like crash like Goose did.
exactly. You know, it
That would be better.
honestly, I'm
Yeah.
I'm just not even gonna pull the eject seat. I'm just gonna go down with the plane. You know, I'm that committed.
I feel like this is like kind of a tangent, but World War One pilots, they didn't have parachutes. So they often died in fiery plane crashes
You know,
or jumped out of
I
planes
actually talked
and
with
just
one of my
died.
instructors about something very similar to that. Back in the day when like the Red Baron and such, I think it wasn't him, but the number two guy for Germany, like their ace out of World War II. This guy was up in a dogfight, and it was him and then two British guys. And the two British guys were like maneuvering around him, trying to line up and everything. And after about a couple minutes, they realized this guy hadn't let a round out. And they figured out that he had a broken plane. And there was this kind of like camaraderie or gentlemanship earlier on in the world wars where all these aviators would say like, I'm not going to shoot a guy coming down from a parachute, like that's messed up, you know? Like you don't do that. Even nowadays, that's just considered wrong, like almost war crime worthy. You don't shoot someone who's parachuting unless they have a gun shooting back at you. There's like, you don't shoot medics out in the field. There's like a certain rule that you abide by that no matter who you are. And when you start messing with that shit, it's over the line even for war. So these pilots were up in the air, and they lined up this guy who was just a phenomenal pilot for Germany, and they realized his gun wasn't working. So what they did is they pulled up to his side, they gave him a thumbs up. The guy returns the thumbs up, and they let him like do a soft landing in this like grass airfield, and they just went about their day. So like they went in with this like blood feud, like they had adrenaline rushing, like it's him or
Yeah, they're like,
me,
we're gonna take this guy
and then
out.
they realize it's like, oh shit, his plane's broken. It's like, hey, see you tomorrow, man. Like that's it. You know, you hear those stories
Yeah.
about like the Brits and the Germans playing soccer on Christmas Day in between the trenches. It's like that kind of thing where they're humans. You know, you think about like people going into combat have this kind of mentality of like kill, 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 but at the end of the day, everybody wants to come home.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Yeah, there's a lot of stories like that about pilots. I've heard a lot of like pilots in general would like if you wouldn't kill a pilot if they were crashed and like you wouldn't you'd let them you'd capture them, I think. So
Mm.
yeah, I think that's pilots especially have like a I guess like a reputation for doing that. I've always found that kind of interesting. Um,
Yeah, it's nice to know that you're not necessarily going to kamikaze every time, and I'm not necessarily going to bank
oh,
on the fact that let's say I go in and I see him outnumbered 20-1. I'm not going to be like,
yeah.
ah, shit, my controls are jammed,
Here
and
we go.
and they'll be like, oh,
No,
sorry, bud. No, but I mean, it's
no, that
yeah.
actually you saying kamikaze though. I can't remember the name of the guy, but there's a famous director in Japan named Kurosawa,
Hmm.
and the guy he always used as his lead actor was was in the Japanese military during World War II,
Hmm.
and he would tell the kamikaze pilots that were about to go, kamikaze and die. Like, he would tell them like, when you're about to do that, like you don't need to say because they were told they have to say a prayer to the emperor. So he was like, you don't need to do that. If you want to like say a prayer to your mom or something, like do that instead. Like
I bet those guys be
like
like, oh, thanks, man. You know, like I was gonna
yeah,
crash the
like
plane, and I was like,
yeah, I think
damn,
he
I'm
was
not
like
gonna
a
get to say
chef,
a
yeah.
prayer.
Well, no, because like all these people, like he was basically like, hey, like the emperor's not God, which was like basically like a war, like in there, like you'd get executed if you
Mhm.
got heard saying that. He'd be like, hey, like listen, man, like it's all bullshit. Like I want you to know, I guess you're, like die for, like your country, not for your emperor, basically.
You know what's wild
Like he'd
is
give him like a little pep talk.
I even learned about this the other day. We were talking about how towards the end of World War II, a lot of the Japanese pilots that had been trained were getting killed off because combat, right? And the U.S. was sending out guys, and after a person does a certain number of times, like he's out there for a certain length of time, they bring him back for a tour to just kind of like train up the new pilots. and Japan wasn't doing that at the time. So their experienced guys are getting killed off. Nobody that has experience is training the new guys. And towards the end of World War II, there's what you call it? It's called it was the duck shoot or something of that nature out over the Pacific Ocean, and I can't remember the ratio. It was something crazy. It's like 9-1 for our pilots shooting down their pilots because they were just sending out people that were just now learning. Yeah, it's like if I went out there today, and it's like this guy's got like 20 hours of flight time. He can like barely land the plane without crashing the shit, and he's going up against like a World War II ace who's got like thousands and thousands of hours. It's just like,
yeah, there's no chance. Yeah, wow.
So
yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense. I hadn't actually heard about that. That's interesting.
I was gonna say, so how have you liked flying so far? Because just what's
oh yeah, that actually sounds, that's got to be like a
yeah, because like so many,
right?
I feel like that's so, well, not to say so many people's, but that's just a common dream, like, oh, I wish I could fly or something like that, and you're doing that. So how is that impactful like on you at all, and like what's the process like for learning how to fly a plane?
So I think there were two moments that kind of stood out head and shoulders. So the first time I actually got in the plane with a private pilot, like as my instructor, I go up and I'm thinking it's this 2-seater, it's the smallest thing I've been in, and I'm looking down and I'm like, we're just kind of getting higher up in the air, you know? Like I've been in a plane before, but this just so happened that I'm in one that's a bit more maneuverable, and I was pretty comfortable, you know? I talked to this guy beforehand, everyone I was training with was prior military, and I'm like, if something's going to go wrong, it's not going to be in the plane with this guy, right? Like you just feel so comfortable about it because this guy's got so much time, he's so experienced, he does this for a living, he trains people, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm just thinking like, all this shit I went through, like all the crappy, like basic training kind of deals, it was like leading up to this moment, like this is why I'm here, and it felt really cool. And the second moment that was about the same kind of euphoria going on in my mind is when I flew the plane by myself, so my solo flight, and I like successfully landed the first time on that, and I came down, and I remember I hit my landing so fucking smooth, and my instructor's looking out, and I had a real bad day the day before, so I was coming out expecting the worst. I was like, hit that bare minimum pass, get through the day, and I hit that first landing, and I went through the pattern one time, came back down, and I was like, I got this shit. Like I felt like I could move that plane in any way I needed to. It was unreal.
So you've flown a plane by yourself. This is new news to me. You've had a solo flight?
Yeah. So yeah, I would go up and then fly around the pattern. I do the little call outs like 814 taking off, and then I'm up in the pattern, say downwind, crosswind. I hit my altitude. You hit all the kind of like regulations for what the FAA mandates that you do and what that airport's kind of rules are. So you're up there, there's a couple other planes, you make sure you're spaced out well enough, and then you like line yourself out so that you turn in properly and you're descending your altitude, take your power out, put your flaps down, and then you come back in and you just kind of make sure you get that nice little scoop. So when you come back in as a plane, you come right back down, you're aiming towards the ground, and then right at the last second you pull back on the throttle, and that lifts the front of you up, and you just kind of let the plane sink into the landing. And it's all timing more or less. So the guys that have done it thousands of times are much better than I am. But that day, those were my best crisp landings.
That's awesome, dude. That's big time. I had no idea that you had your solo flight. So, obviously, you put a lot of time. Well, I mean, not a lot of time, but video games was a thing of that you did growing up. Did you feel like flying planes at all in any sort of video game gave you any sort of confidence? Because I'm not gonna lie, and I know
not in the slightest,
because I felt when I drove a car for the first time, I just felt so much more confident that I logged a couple hours in Mario Kart and Need for Speed.
Jesus Christ. I think you're
I might be. Maybe no one else thought that, but I was like, this isn't really that much different, you know.
So one of the tests we took, a preliminary question was, how many times have you played video games and how many hours do you spend per week? And that was a metric of them seeing if video games affected it or not. And a lot of people said, if you play a lot of video games, you're probably going to do better on this section of the test. And I'm certain that the fact that I play video games helped me on the test that got me into the Navy, because that was just joystick, throttle, kind of matching everything up on a computer screen, and it was like second nature. But actually being in the plane, there's so much more going on, and kind of like the feedback of the plane is how you fly it, right? So you feel like it's drifting off to one side, doing this and that. It was like one of those kind of rides you go to at a theme park where you sit in the chair and the thing kind of jerks you one way or the other. And it was very different from playing video games, to say the least. But yeah.
So do you think like playing video games maybe, like you said, it helped with the test, but do you think maybe it builds like some of the skill that like the reaction time stuff you might need, and then that's kind of why it's helpful? And then like obviously you're not going to be able to like
just press the right trigger.
no,
and
unless you're playing like unless you're playing a flight sim in like a $10,000 chair that's like designed to be.
Yeah, well, we actually have flight simulators that are like that. I haven't been in one yet, but I don't think, unless I actually got like an actual controller, I don't think it would help very much. I thought it would be more significant, but a lot of the guys I talked to at the airport said people who ride horses or motorcycles typically come in and have a better feel for it, just as far as
because you have to be able to react to the feel of everything.
Yeah, again, a lot of it was just the feedback of figuring out what the plane's doing, and video games helped with the like cognitive, like with your hand coordination, but flying isn't so much being coordinated with your hands, it's understanding what you need to do. It's so if it was a comparison with a video game, it's not so much the video games helped, it's like I had a brand new video game. So I was maybe able to learn it quicker, but right off the bat it didn't do anything for me.
Yeah, it didn't help at all. Do you so I've just heard this, I don't know if you'd know. Hopefully you don't. Flying upside down, have you done that? Because I've heard you just can't tell, like, if you're upside down.
I've gone into steep turns, which would be the closest thing to it, and it's kind of, I disagree with I don't think you can tell.
All right.
Definitely, yeah, as far as your sight picture, a lot of things would throw you off. And even going into a steep turn, your body, you can feel just the gravity pulling on it.
You can definitely feel like a turn. I've just heard that like if you get turned around like upside down somehow and you're like flying upside down, you just like you can't actually tell that you're flying upside down, like assuming you can obviously tell getting there.
Yeah, so
you can feel the plane.
There's a scenario I think would be along the lines of what you're saying, where a lot of pilots have this happen. So let's say you're a fighter pilot and you're up at like 20,000 feet. There's dense clouds and you kind of start to realize that your altitude's dropping. So they tell you as aviators, you're supposed to always trust your instruments, not your feeling, right? Because your body can be tricked. You can see different things. Your mind can lie to you and tell you all these things with the horizon are wrong. So trust your instruments over everything else. And there have been a lot of instances where guys are up in the air and they stall out and they start freaking out, saying, oh my God, it's going nuts, whatever. They start grabbing the controls, trying to correct things. They're just overcorrecting. The numbers are going everywhere. And someone will talk them through it and just say, hey, look at your gauges, make sure everything's evening out, put some power into it, get the horizon nice and level on your attitude indicator, and you're fine. And that's really all it comes down to. So with aviation, one of the highest things you can get is called an instrument rating, and there's two different major types of flight. There's VFR, and that's just reference points on the ground, and that's visual flight references, and then IFR, so instrument flight references. And IFR is what all the big boys do. That's what anybody who's flying something that's going to kill somebody or is an airline pilot can do. And that's when you don't need to see the ground to fly. And
basically you're going purely off of what your plane's telling you.
Yeah, the windshield, your visuals up there, you're supposed to check all the time, but it's more or less there just to help you. And you could fly without looking outside the plane for the most part.
Wow. I mean, so do you have any, because I guess I have a couple more questions. But like anything, like any like fun moments or experiences that you've had flying? Because I assume that one of the tests is that you purposely stall and you're supposed to recover from it when someone else is in the plane. Have you done that yet? Or
yes. So that's one of the main things you do. There's a bunch of different types of stalling, and how you recover from them is a little different. There was a good moment where I was in the plane with my instructor, and he was telling me like I was kind of thinking too much into the theory of it, of like how to adjust things and whatever. He's like, just fly the damn plane. So he grabs the
ex-Navy pilot line right there.
So this guy pulls the throttle all the way out, which means he just takes the plane to idle basically, and he pushes my yoke forward, so the nose goes down. He's like, plane does this, what are you gonna do? And I like kind of jump to like sit up in my chair a bit more straight, and like grab the yoke, pull it back, push the throttle back in. He's like, there you go, that's all you have to do. He's like, just think about this. He's like, the power goes down, plane starts going forward, what do you do? He's like, you pull the nose up, get it back to level flight, and you throw some power into it. He's like, it's the same as driving your car. You know, you're on the highway, you start slowing down, what do you do? put your foot on the damn gas and go faster, speed up, make sure you're not swerving into everybody. Like.
Okay.
But
so I guess moving forward, what are your plans in the Navy? So like, can you give us a little timeline of like, so you're not you haven't been like licensed to fly yet, right? Or do you ever?
Correct. So I'll give you the shortened version. So training right now for the next month and a half is the more rigorous ground school. Finish that, get my flight suit, then I go into primary training. That'll be in the T6 Texan, which goes quite faster than what I'm used to flying, and that'll be a couple months. Once that happens, let's say holiday season, just for shits and giggles, that would be the end of primary. I go into secondary, and because I'm an NFO, I start doing my training with the instruments, just as far as being able to manipulate everything up in the air. So let's say February rolls around. That's when I'd be getting winged, which means official like naval aviator, and I can go out in the fleet and start training with the guys that I'd actually serve with. So the people that are in my squadron, which is the unit of planes, obviously. So I train with them for about 6 months, and they say, all right, kids ready to go. Let's go smoke some bad guys. And then I serve 6 years.
So you're roughly a year out of being ready for deployment.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And from there you could really be just deployed anywhere, or what's
well, so it depends on the planes that you get, and they call them platforms for us. So the ones that I'm looking at, ideally are going to send me somewhere in Europe, possibly Japan, and then from there you'll go out a little bit further on your deployments. So those would be the bases that I'd be kind of based out of for my career. But they'd say, hey, we have a deployment here, so I could go to South America. I could really go anywhere from that point on.
Okay, that's kind of cool. So you'll be living in Europe and then being deployed into
hopefully
basically wherever they want you to go.
I know that my next spot will either be Oklahoma or Jacksonville, and that's like the continuation of my training. And hopefully I'll get Jacksonville out of the two, because God knows there's nothing in Oklahoma.
Except Trae Young.
You know, is there much in Jacksonville?
Well, Jacksonville's closer to all the other Florida city. I just want to be near a larger city again.
I get that.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to live in Oklahoma.
No disrespect to all of our
Oklahoma
Oklahoma
City, right?
viewers out there.
Yeah, all our Oklahoma fans. Oklahoma's great.
Russell Westbrook
love that place.
He can recruit me all he wants. I'm not going.
So then, I guess just one.
Angus, come to the military base over
Tweet me.
in Oklahoma.
Hey, think of the trio. We'd be a powerhouse, man.
Dude. He's like, I heard he was 6'5". He might be good.
So I guess just one last question, and we'll wrap up Navy talk. But so after your deployment, like, do you have any idea what you want to do, or like what's your thoughts on that? After the 6 years.
After I get deployed.
Like after your deployment, or after your time is up?
Your service time is 6 years.
Sure. So ideally, I would finish at that time and say, I loved being a naval aviator, but I want to do something else with my career. And I, right now, want to go into law enforcement. So there's two kind of ways I could go into that. I could go in the traditional route, where I just transfer over, say this is what I've done. I'm applying for a federal position, they make me an agent. That would be the dream. Otherwise, I could do that and kind of bring the expertise of aviation in, where they do have people that fly things for law enforcement, because they have interdiction that needs to go to and from certain locations. So that's a gig I could get on as well. And you never know. Let's say I get to Jacksonville or wherever I'm with my squadron, and I'm like, these guys are great, deployment, lifestyle, everything fits me. And I end up getting a family, and I say, I can continue to do this, have a great lifestyle, and continue to maintain everything with my family so that I'm happy.
And when you say law enforcement, are you like is it like FBI, or it's just I don't know, that's
I think like 3-letter agencies, more or less.
Okay, cool. All right, well, that's you're living quite the life, Angus, and I'm excited for you, man. Like from the bottom of my heart, man.
It's super exciting.
It's really awesome what you're doing.
No, yeah, it's awesome, man. It's really cool, man. Getting to be a pilot is kind of the shit.
There's something you guys should watch when you get the chance, and it's
Top Gun.
It's Top Gun 2, but it's not actually Top Gun 2. Top Gun 2 is actually being filmed where I'm at right now for training, and
Oh my god.
yeah,
They're making a Top Gun 2?
Yeah, so Tom Cruise is a captain. It's this whole thing. You can check it out on your own time,
wow.
but it's being filmed right now. But there's a movie called American Made. It's on HBO, and
Oh.
yeah, Tom Cruise plays a pilot who's a commercial airliner pilot, which is basically what every naval aviator dreams to do after their career in the military. And what it is he's basically fed up with his time in the airlines and he wants to go work for something a little bit higher paying. And he gets wrapped up in this whole CIA kind of narcos deal, but he's also flying planes. So it's just Top Gun, but kind of fused with some
Yeah, isn't
Pablo
he like
Escobar.
running like weapons and shit for the fucking CIA?
Yeah, but at a certain
Like,
point, you don't
he's-
know which side he's working for, and
Yeah, he's just playing everybody. Yeah, it's based on a real story. I've heard about.
it's like
the
every
real
Tom
guys.
Cruise movie ever made just meshed into one.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And that actually brings us really nicely into what our main topic I think for the night we planned on having. We were gonna talk about like the big box office movies, the big blockbusters, and
Oh, I'll tell you, the block has
just-
been busted.
yeah, man. And just to get that opened up, fucking Disney, man. Like they own everything, like all the movies. Angus, you're a pretty big movie guy. I know you obviously love Top Gun. But you and me, we talk about movies. Usual Suspects, I think we watched together. Like, yeah, we have a
Greatest movie ever made.
classic times staying up late at night watching Netflix together, like the same movie. Via Xbox.
Simpler times.
Simpler times. Man.
But yeah, so my first reaction when I saw that is I was like, what does this mean I get to watch? Because everyone has their set group of streaming services. I'm like, Disney buys out Fox. I'm like, all right, where's the combination here? So I naturally go online, and all these nerds have already figured out this shit. So I look for like the summary, and they're like,
these fucking nerds.
they're like, hey, this means the Fantastic Four and all the guys from the Wolverine movie can be in the MCU, whatever. And I'm like, huh? And they're like, basically, they can just make a hell of a lot more superhero movies, is what I gathered from this. But I'm sitting here thinking, if Disney comes out with a streaming service to contend, because I think their licensing got removed from Netflix. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I know. I think Coco's
Yeah, I
on
don't know.
Netflix.
Okay.
Isn't Coco a Disney movie?
I mean,
It is. Or it's picked.
Yeah.
It's at least, it's Disney Pixar.
yeah, it's Disney. It's Disney owned. I have a page open for a little factos.
ooh,
drop,
watch
but,
out, fat guy.
Yeah,
But
right. But yeah, no.
let's drop your facts. Let's see it.
Oh yeah, no. I was just saying that. Yeah, I think Disney. If Disney did start their own service, I just feel like that would be a waste of money for them.
Mm-hmm.
Because like, why spend money on developing a streaming service, which is a pretty expensive thing to do, when you can just kind of like, because they are who they are, they can just like gouge the shit out of like Netflix and Hulu. They'll be like, do you want to be the guy who doesn't have
The
Yeah.
thing.
half the movies people want
Well,
to see?
the thing
Like,
is that in this Fox deal, Fox owned, and Disney isn't outright. They aren't outright buying all of Fox. They're just buying like a large majority of the assets. So they're getting the movie studios, so 21st Century Fox. They're getting some regional sports networks. And they're also taking on a lot of debt along with it. But also another thing is that Fox owned a third of Hulu. So people were kind of wondering, because like obviously I guess Disney announced maybe last year or maybe 2 years ago the whole idea of spinning off and having their own streaming services. But now people are wondering if they might just not do that and just put all that content on Hulu because it is already established.
just kind of eat Hulu, and yeah,
I'm
that would be really smart.
I've been on the fence about Hulu for a while. I have HBO and Netflix right now, and it's fantastic. I have plenty to watch. But I've always been of this mindset. So it's the same price for all these services, right? Or it's
Yeah, they're
within the
about-
range. And you sit
They're all
there
within
and
like $1 of each other.
all you do is compare and say, Hulu has Rick and Morty, or Netflix has this movie that just came out, and what do I do? And I think when I get the motivation and the time to be able to watch as much as I want to, I'm just going to alternate month by month. Like this is a Hulu month, next month is a Netflix month, and you just bounce between everything.
That's perfect, because my friend actually has all of them. Like, yeah,
See, that's
Hulu, he has
overkill.
Netflix,
That's
he has
so
HBO Go.
much.
Yeah, right. And so what he ends up doing is like for a month or two, he will just basically only check what's on one of the 3 that he owns. Like, you know what I mean? And that'll just be like the one he'll be looking at. He'll be like, yeah, last month I watched the entirety of Curb Your Enthusiasm.
That's a month
this
well
month
spent.
I think I'm just gonna watch something on Netflix. yeah. It's the friend is Nick. No,
that's not me.
No, no. It's that's actually, it's interesting you say that, because I just know somebody who's like basically doing that, but paying for all of them whether they're using them or not. So
that's the more American way. And now that I hear it out loud, just go ahead and do that.
They're not that expensive, right? They're all like, they're all like $8.99. So what, you're paying $30 a month, you know? Fuck, dude, this is so much money. I have Netflix. I don't think I guess like Hulu kind of fucked up to me because of they had like for a long time they like wouldn't get rid of ads, and I think it kind of made Hulu like not cool.
I think they, Netflix got off to the hot start and kind of just kept rolling with it. But I have to tell you, I feel like it's the same kind of a parallel with all the smartphones of how most people have Netflix, which is an iPhone, right? But I think from like a real scientific standpoint, you can look at what is it, like the Samsung phones are probably the ones you could prove are just empirically better. And the only reason the only reason so many people have Netflix or iPhone still is because it's pop culture. That's what people have.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. Like, Netflix is the cool one. Like, nobody says Hulu and chill, right? It's Netflix and chill.
Maybe we should start that.
Like, if you I'm just saying, if you went
Hulu
back
and
to
Hump.
if you brought a girl back you brought a girl back to your room and you opened up that Hulu app, she'd probably leave.
Oh my god, that's the Reddit post right there. That's the Reddit post.
She walks back in and she says, seriously. "Oh, I thought we were gonna hook up." She just leaves.
All right, me and Nick, we've just found what our next Reddit post is going to be.
The search for the front page.
Write it down. Yeah, the hunt for the front.
Oh, wow,
like
God.
I'm on a roll. Holy shit.
I think we should. I think we should just be quiet for the rest of this time and just let reels go.
I think the remainder of this podcast should just be him pitching names for what the Reddit post should be called.
Oh man. But yeah, so like Hulu's interesting because it's actually really good now. Like, I agree. But they really did just like not listen to Justin Timberlake in The Social Network, like ads aren't cool.
God, he is on a roll. We can't say it.
I thought of that one the second I started talking about ads. I've been waiting to whip it out. I'm glad the topic didn't
This
change.
is like one of those how it feels to chew 5 gum moments, and it's just him talking and my mind's just being blown every 10 minutes.
Oh man. But yeah, they really fucked up there because they really do have like, at least like it's at least as good as Netflix, right? And Amazon Video is actually sick as fuck as well, and it comes with Prime, which you probably have already. So like, yeah.
That's the only one you really have to get legally because you can't live without Prime at this day and age. I can't live without Prime because I don't.
No, like 2-day fucking shipping from Amazon. It's important, man. Like, I'm willing to like, I guess, let those workers have like horrible working conditions, but I can get those 2-day shipping. I've heard of people like killing themselves at like Amazon plans. Like,
so hold on, where is Amazon? Where are these plans based at? Are these overseas?
Dude, they're in the U.S. No, but they have like plants in the U.S. where it's like verifiable. They have like entire like buckets and shit that employees go to shit in because like the bathroom's too far away, and they'll get in trouble if they don't like make their days or they walk away for too long. So like, yeah, it's like real.
Now, I'm gonna be very blunt with this. That is horrible. But I also think that it is incredible that someone is getting away with that. Like, someone is making money off that. The fact they gamed the system that hard that they're getting away with telling their employees to shit in a pot.
Well, I don't think they ever told them to do it. I think they were just like, why are you taking so long to shit? And the employees were like, well, I mean, the bathroom's over there. And they're like, well, don't take so long.
Yeah, no, see, you don't need to be in charge, setting yourself up for failure.
No, you don't tell the employee to shit in the bucket. You just make it so that that's the only choice.
You make 10 pounds of shit fit in a 5-pound bucket.
Yeah, that's the American way. Yeah, Amazon sucks, but Amazon Video, real good. They make some real good movies too. The Amazon Studios, Jumanji. Me and Angus saw that. That was an Amazon Studio movie.
That was again. The more I think about that, you didn't expect it to be a great movie, and it wasn't.
I thought it would be trash.
But yeah,
it was actually really fun.
I was afraid because the original with Robin Williams was fantastic. I watched that as a kid dozens of times, and going in to see that, it was just kind of very aesthetically pleasing. They didn't do anything that was too over the top with a kind of like throwback to the old movie, but yeah, I was very happy with it.
Yeah, and it was just entertaining. Like, no, and that's like that to me, like that's kind of actually like interesting to me because Amazon, Hulu, Netflix, they're trying to really beat each other by producing original content, right? Like that seems to be like the way to do it. Like Netflix has Stranger Things, which is it's iconic. House of Cards was like huge before Kevin Spacey,
allegedly
got caught. All right, he didn't allegedly get caught. He just did get caught. I'm not saying for what. I'm not alleging anything.
Not trying to have any defamation of character pop up,
Yeah, you're right. Because Kevin Spacey is actually known to start just random 3-letter acronyms and start on the fourth episode.
He starts
He's
the
a
fourth
former
episode,
military guy.
And I've also heard that he clicks roughly 35-40 minutes into most of those podcasts too, to really get the meat and potatoes.
It's that government training. He learned it while he was on the set of House of Cards. That's how they do things, man. But no, so Netflix is like killing it with the series, but then like their movies, most of them are bad or do bad, even if they aren't bad. And then like Amazon has really good ones, and Hulu, like all their original content has kind of looked like shit, but like a lot of the newer stuff looks pretty good. They're like coming in with some stuff that actually like makes me think, oh yeah, I might get Hulu.
I think Amazon really went for the quality as opposed to Netflix put out so much stuff. Just variety. They're not really going for awards. If you notice, they put out a couple good shows every year just to kind of have nominations, but they made so many shows that no matter who you are, they kind of hit your niche one way or the other. You like war movies, they got something for you. You like kids princess movies, whatever, boom, there you go. You want something about being a foodie, there's something on Netflix. And are these all great films? No, but every person out there can find one that they at least like enough to watch.
Did you guys see that Amazon's producing a Lord of the Rings show?
Yes.
Yeah, everybody saw that. That's also like the most expensive show of all time. So that's going to be really interesting if it turns out good.
I want to know like where the money is getting spent poorly, because when you have a budget that large, somebody in that office is thinking about what I can get away with spending this shit on. Like if they're not casting like basically like Ocean's 12 kind of like budget with the cast, they're going to put it into all the background effects and everything. They got to get extras, all the materials.
The thing is, like, it's so expensive to make like the kind of movie that like Lord of the Rings is, and to do it in a TV show, because they're gonna need to build like really nice sets. They're gonna have to have really good CGI. They gotta hire tons and tons of extras to play the the orcs and shit in like big battle scenes. Like that shit adds up. So I'm actually not that surprised about the budget.
I've always wondered,
especially because it's a TV show, so they're gonna have to do it for like a lot.
I always wondered with that kind of movie, if that budget like that, it's that much of a project. Just as far as the like, they say there's episodes every once in a while that have like the Fly episode in Breaking Bad, where nothing basically happens the entire episode. It's only to build up on budget for something.
It's a filler episode just to throw in so that you hit like the number of episodes you need without going over a budget. Yeah.
I've always wondered with those kind of episodes, how far ahead you look with the budget for everything? Because let's say someone says you got $1 billion at the beginning of the show, right? Is that episode exist because someone was over budget halfway through the season filming, or did they plan on that one just being a filler?
So I wouldn't know. But like I would say like I've seen Hearts of Darkness, the Apocalypse Now documentary. And with that, it kind of seems like the going over budget is not something you realize until like you're already doing it. Like they were, when they're filming that, like they're basically like, oh fuck, we're going over budget, and they're like stressing about it because they just like they're realizing like, oh, we're not going to be able to, like, we're going to have to find ways around it. So I would imagine you wouldn't write, because I just like ideally I think as like a creator you wouldn't want an episode that means nothing.
Yeah.
But what might end up happening is you're like, well, maybe when they write it, they're like, okay, we've written our season, it's 12 episodes, but we're under contract for 13, so let's write a 13th episode that doesn't really matter.
Let's have them play ping pong for 45 minutes.
Or, yeah. Well, they want it to be good, so they'll definitely maybe use that idea, because that'd be really fun. Like a one-take, camera on a tripod, two guys playing ping pong. They don't say anything. They just get, like, really sweaty, and it just ends. That would be interesting. I don't know where you'd put the ad breaks.
That's up there with the Soprano endings.
Well, I have something to add. Well, I guess
all right.
I went to high school, or I guess high school, middle school with a kid, and he did. I have no idea what it was, but he lived in Greece for a little bit, and he was part of a movie there. And he said in one of my classes that, at least for, I don't know, you take this with a grain of salt, but it does make sense that with movies they usually record the ending and the beginning at first, because those are usually the high budget scenes. Just like think about it, like a big chase or like some big explosion or something with action movies that usually starts with like at the start of the movie or at the end, and they usually film just the middle stuff where it's not as like I guess high budget towards the end. So if they are running over budget, then they can cut stuff out. So
that's interesting.
So yeah, that's for movies. So I mean I don't know what like the film schedule's like. I don't know like if how long it takes to film a movie, like a feature-length film, compared to like a show like Breaking Bad. Like I'm not sure if they're filming for like 3 months each, or I don't know what the deal is with that. But I don't know. There's just
feature-length movies get a lot more time per. I think the like in the film industry, the expected, you're supposed to get like on average like 2 pages a day. Like 2 pages of script is what you shoot per day. Some days you shoot like a paragraph, because like an action scene is going to take a really long time. And then a scene where 2 people are sitting at a diner is not going to take hardly any time, right? So yeah, so like in general,
out of how many pages?
2 pages
like,
a day.
How many pages is?
Like about 120-page screenplay for a 90-minute movie. So most screenplays are in like 110 to about 130-ish pages, like most feature screenplays. So you get 2 pages a day done, and I think it's 5 for TV. So. This is just like stuff I've like heard on Google. Like, there's probably people who would be like, "No, fuck you," but fuck them, right? They're not here.
But, I'm the one with the voice of this thing.
I'd say
everyone's so polite in the movie industry. That would surprise me.
Yeah. No, TV shows, it's a lot more tight schedule, and that's why TV tends to be like, I don't want to say not as good, but like if you know, like they don't spend as much time and money on things like special effects and having like really intricate like shots and like visuals, because you don't have time, and you can't just drop like like $200,000 to get like a really nice CGI thing done, because you have to spread your budget out over way more episodes.
So a movie I wanted to ask you about that really struck my interest, not necessarily the movie itself, but kind of everything about it. So that Tag movie came out, right? It was based on like the real story of like 5 grown men touching each other for fucking 30 years or something. Whatever.
They play tag. They're not.
Yeah, they play tag, each other. And they do it for like once a month, right? So it doesn't seem like an overtly popular thing that people would go to the movies to see. Yeah, but they have this really high-powered cast. And is that a result of kind of the cast members saying like, we really like what we see here, and we think we can make money off it and take it? Or do they kind of think that it's a shit plot and they can get away with having a great cast and people will go see it? Like, where does the what's
so my guess, like obviously I wouldn't know, but my guess, just based on my understanding of the industry, is like the plan would be you'd see a screenplay like that and you'd say like, okay, it's an interesting, it's unique, right? It's not an idea. They probably bought that from like, it was probably a spec script, which means somebody wrote that. The studio didn't come up to them and be like, hey, we want you to write this. Somebody wrote that and came to a studio and was like, hey, give me money and you can make this. Like that's what a spec script is, speculative. You basically run up to like a producer and say, hey, make this, and they're like, why? And then you give them reasons, and then they give you money, or they say fuck off. It's usually the latter. But but so this was probably a spec script. I'm guessing, like I have no idea, but this was probably a spec script based on something in the guy, like the writer's life, or a friend of the writer or something. And I'm purely guessing, but it's just like, I hope I'm right though, because it'd be cool as shit. But it's probably a spec script, And what probably happened is the studio had it for probably a long time. They'll hold on to those things for like 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And they probably were like, I kind of want to make this. And somebody read it, like an agent or a producer, and they were like, you know what, I'm going to call Ed Helms, or I'm going to call Jeremy Renner, right? I'm going to call one of these guys and see if they want to do it, is basically what happened. Like, that's usually, because if you get like a big star behind it, you can, like, people will go see this movie. Like, nobody's seeing this movie if Hannibal Buress is like the biggest star in it, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just how it is. So that's probably what happened. They were like, let's go get like some like decent leading men and kind of see so probably like that's probably what happened is they probably found the actors. I highly doubt the actor read the script and was like, hey, this is fire, let's do it.
Have any of those guys been in movies
probably
together in the past? Because I feel like with something like that, like you would think that it would be kind of like a group of friends.
Pull your buds in.
You pull your buds into that. Like you get Ed Helms, and he's tight with like Jeremy Renner or whatever, and then like kind of just flows from there. Like I don't really know.
Oh, I don't actually know. I think Hannibal Buress has done stuff with the other guy who's not very famous. I don't even know his name.
The other
Jake Johnson.
Yes, Jake Johnson.
Jake Johnson. Yeah, I think they've done stuff together. I'm sure John Hamm and Helms have done stuff together because they both used to do like comedy stuff on NBC. I think they've both guest starred on 30 Rock.
I think that could be kind of a perfect storm of people kind of associated with each other and said, I really wanted to do a project with this guy, or I think it's kind of the perfect mishmash because, I mean, those guys all seem like they kind of fit the same palette of the like early 40s white guy, but at the same time their personalities are all, I'd say,
except for Hannibal Buress.
Pretty different. Yeah.
But yeah, I think, I mean, I'm sure they know each other. They're actors in Hollywood, and they're all, they're all like about the same level.
They're walking around Hollywood, and it's like, that's the only guy that doesn't have her camera pointed at me, like.
And I know John Hamm in particular. I have just read about him. He's like with Mad Men.
Mm-hmm.
For a long time, he was like not taking roles because no one would offer him anything but basically like a Don Draper type character.
Yeah.
Like a very serious, like brooding businessman.
Because you get typecast.
And he was like, I don't want to get stuck with that. So I think he's like deliberately looking for, like he did Baby Driver. I think he's looking for like funnier roles. He used to do comedy before Mad Men too, so I think he's looking for that because like, what better way to break yourself out of like he's a serious, like deep businessman actor than to do some goofy comedies, especially one about playing tag.
So quick story.
So maybe he was the one they pull in first,
Yeah,
he's big enough.
He could definitely be the center of gravity for that cast,
Yeah.
So quick story about Mad Men. My sophomore year at college, I got 3 roommates. One of them kind of went off, did his own thing. 2 of them, very close friends of mine. And honestly, sophomore year, we didn't have jobs at this point, and we didn't have a ton of classwork. So we were pretty game to kind of do fun stuff any day of the week. And we figured, towards the weekend, like Thursday rolls around, we're like, all right, class is done at 2 o'clock. We don't have any commitment to do anything. Nothing's planned. Let's watch Mad Men. And it kind of became our show. And we really got invested in it. And you're sitting there thinking, it's like every 5 minutes somebody's smoking or drinking, and it's all that's on your mind. So we're like, hey, let's start drinking, pregame for the bars, go out and do whatever. So it's like 2 o'clock, we're sitting there, someone's like, what are they drinking in the show? And like, gentleman's whiskey. And like, oh, that stuff's pretty strong. All right, pour it out for everybody. And then we realized they got these lowball glasses, and we're like, all right, we got to be true to the show. And we just get some lowball glasses. We get the Don Draper ice cubes that cover it up just for the whiskey. And sooner or later, we're sitting there in like shirt and tie in the living room watching Mad Men, sipping on whiskey. And
just cosplaying Mad Men.
Yeah, we like break out the cigars, and it would be like a scene with Don Draper and his boss sitting there, and he's pitching them some idea, and we're sitting there like, like taking a drag on a cigar or something like that. And we'd all wake up around like 8 or 9 o'clock at night and realize that we all passed out because we drank too much or smoked, and we got through a whole season of Mad Men in a day.
Holy shit. I think that's just actually alcoholism. You just like,
it wasn't the show, but it's like you're sitting there, you see Don Draper throwing him back, you're like, all right, I'm game.
No, there is no better advertisement for like just like making somebody want whiskey than watching Don Draper crash an old fashioned like 50 times.
You just sit there and you hear the glass clinking against the ice cubes.
Oh,
and you're
it always looks
magical.
so good. Oh man, and Don looks cool as shit. And you're like, yeah, dude, I want to do that.
Yes. It just harped on us. We're sitting there thinking, this guy's so cool. Well, how do we do what he does? Obviously, it's the vices. That's definitely what makes him who he is.
No, that's the part that makes it. Well, it's like the vices and the fact that he has like a troubled past, but you can't like manufacture a troubled past, you know?
You'd be surprised how good we got.
Nice. That's amazing.
We would come back in. We'd throw someone a pitch, and there's like the one guy on the show who's kind of nerdy, snitched on people every now and then. And obviously, when you watch a show with a group of friends, you say, okay, hey, you're John Pam because, you know, you're cool, put together, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's the numbers guy, you know, you're pretty smart in real life, whatever, you're him. You're all watching the show, playing the association game, and as we're sitting there drinking a little bit, your character does something you don't like, you're like, ah, fuck, god damn it, why'd I do that? Like...
So I guess we're kind of winding the episode down kind of soon, but one last topic that Angus wanted to hit on. So Angus, talk about this space army that we're starting or something.
Yeah,
Space Force. Please,
excuse me.
Take this seriously.
I see it on my Twitter. I see it as a. It seems like a joke.
So are we fighting aliens?
I thought it had to do with like SpaceX and Elon Musk. But
so
yeah, what Space Force?
It's such a broad spectrum of. I don't know. I don't think anyone from the president down to the people that are actually doing what this is going to be, like, they don't know how far this is going to go. What is known right now is that people in the White House and certain members of the government want to push for another branch of the military. And a lot of the public opinion of it is that this is basically a joke. And I think I still need to see more kind of concrete evidence that this is going to become a real portion of the military before I stop looking away from the memes that I think are incredible about it. So, Space Force is supposed to be an extension of the Air Force. In a way, you know how the Marines are an extension of the Navy?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to be kind of a way to build off of that. And it's not necessarily going to be similar. It's going to operate in a sense of like the Air Force has drones and such, and we're not going to be putting like thousands and thousands of guys up in like the troposphere or whatever the furthest one out is. Basically, what we want to do is start exploring ways to have weapons out in outer space and how to expand, and more or less think of it as a more aggressive NASA in case something bad was to happen and another country was going to have capability. So it's kind of like we're playing that game where we build ourselves up and we play it off as in the event someone else does it, we're just playing safe, you know? We build a gun just in case the other guy has a gun. So a lot of people think it's a bit of a joke, but you can go online and you can see they put up the rank structure and it goes astronaut first class, starship, starbase, major, and they kind of mixed all the different branches of military.
That can't be real.
So
this is real?
The highest one up, it goes Chief Master Sergeant of the Space Force.
Wow.
No, there's no way. Space Force ranks. I'm looking this up. This is a mid-podcast Google.
Now, you don't think this is serious, and it really doesn't sound like it's... But that's the beauty of it.
Chief Master Sergeant of the Space Force. This is real.
And
whoa.
I really don't know how to... I can't tell you... This could be a real portion of the military. Like 15, 20 years down the road, you could be like seeing some guy walk around on the street and you'd be like, that's a tough motherfucker right there. That guy has seen some shit in the Space Force. And it's just now, it seems so foreign.
No, I'm going to come in with a hot take. I don't think that we need a space military because space, like, where we're at right now, we barely get to space. Like, I feel like I guess we could throw, like, some satellites and shit up there that are, like, military designed. We already have those. We have, like, scouting satellites.
I don't know enough about it, but one thing I have heard
we're so far from, like, having, like, useful space travel for that to be, to me, like, to make sense being productive. Like. So
one of the things I've heard that's combating the practicality of it is a lot of government officials have military bases or personnel within their districts, and by creating this military, it's going to pull funding from them. So a lot of government officials might be in opposition to this because they obviously want to win votes, and someone in the Navy might say, hey, this means job cuts for my field. Why would I want that to happen? You know? And there's no imminent threat in space as far as I know.
That's like my big question would be, right? So let's say we get a space force. We're the first. We develop some space shit. First of all, it's like got to be way better than the space shuttles we have now. Because just the cost to launch a single like spaceship into space, like off of a rocket, it's way too expensive to be like practical to like on like a military level. And then two, like what are they fighting, right? Like are they shooting down like other people's satellites? Because we can already do that from the ground. Or are they bombing people from space? Because are they gonna be like? Because the other people aren't gonna have spaceships or space stations. So like we would just. It's kind of like if we built like a massive navy, but we are at war with like Congo, who like has no water. Well, they have a river, but
so
you know what I mean. Like if you're like, you start amping up on your navy to go to war with somebody who's like a landlocked country. Like they don't need a navy.
So let me throw two things at you real quick. First one is. You mentioned the one, it seems like it's not practicality because it would cost so much money to put people in these devices up in space. When has it ever been the government's priority with military spending to be responsible?
Yeah, no, this is true. I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying, like, I would think, like, a general would be like, yo, like, all that money we're spending on these goddamn chief master sergeant of the Space Forces, you could build, like, just more rockets or something.
There are Buzz Lightyear memes all over the internet saying Space Force wants you. It's there are guys I see at work every day saying, you know, I hate it here. I'm gonna lateral transfer and go into Space Force and do what I set out to do in the military.
I just don't think that's a lateral move. If I'm honest.
My second thought now. You might think this is a bit of a joke. It might be a little humorous, but. So let's say something is out there, right? Like let's say we know intelligent life is out there, and we don't want to rock the boat too much, right? And the government's saying like, hey, let's do this little thing. We'll kind of brush it under the rug, you know, it's just another branch of the military. But we see something, maybe like it's a light year away or something, and we want to start prepared for it. And it doesn't need to destroy the public and make everyone flip out, but what if we know about something? Like, what if this is there for a reason that's too big for anyone to tell us? This is kind of conspiracy theory-like, but...
Okay, but then, sure, but then even then, I feel like the better option would be to build things... Because we're so far off from, like, spaceships that would be effective in combat. We don't even, like, this is, like, a big problem. Like, how would we have a gun that would work? Because guns require combustion. Combustion requires oxygen. So that just wouldn't work. Like we'd have to develop a different kind of gun. We couldn't just like load the guns we've invented.
Lots of laser beams.
Yeah,
that's actually
laser beams. We're right on the cusp of lasers.
Militaries around the world are trying to develop right now, with what you call it? Not laser beams.
What does a light gun do? Do you know what that a rail gun? Is that what it is?
Yeah. So.
I think that uses like magnets, right? Like a Gaussian.
But more or less things of that. So the real benefit with that kind of stuff is not that it's so overpowered. It's the fact that you could draw energy from anywhere. So imagine like a plane was able to fly anywhere around the world and just generate ammunition from thin air or heat or whatever it requires. That's the real appeal with that.
Yeah, that it would work in space.
It would work in space.
Which would be dope. No, but so that like that's one problem that I guess it's minor that we'd have to invent a new gun. But then two, again, I feel like why not just like build like really good surface to space
defense
weapons, like artillery, right? Because if they're coming at us with spaceships, we're probably like we're probably
are you talking
better
about
off.
Other countries or are you talking about aliens?
I'm talking about the fucking aliens because other countries don't have spaceships. Nobody has spaceships right now. And if there is, like, to answer Angus's, like,
that you know
borderline okay, you're right. Russia's definitely got, like, Sputnik, that shit
I'm not a big conspiracy theory guy, but...
Yeah, I know. Oh, no, I'm just saying the alien thing. I feel like a better option. I guess, you know what? I'm not in the military strategy. Maybe they know better, but I would think, like, things that are already, like, things that we already know how to do. We know how to build some real fucking good like artillery. Why not like have real fucking good artillery that can shoot into space if we need it? That would, I feel like, be more effective than, because even if they do like come in with space, they have to attack us, right? Because they can't blockade us because we don't have interstellar trade.
Not yet.
So they can't do a blockade. So they'd have to attack. So if we had things that could take out like capital ships or whatever from the ground, like big fucking rocket dudes, I feel like that would be better. And fuck it, I don't know, dude. Whatever. I feel like it might be a bad idea to invest a lot of money in the space memes when we could maybe, I don't know, like deal with poverty or something. Free college. I have to pay for college, but we have fucking chief master sergeants of the Air Force or Space Force.
It's funny that shit out of you mention that, because that goes on to my next topic of how you can pay for college. The Space Force program.
The Space Force. Fuck.
Hey guys, I think you are a straight shooter to upper level Space Force commander.
Yeah, you say after my 7 years I want to be like, it was fun being a pilot. I'm getting into my real passion. The Space Force. I'm gonna be a senior starship, starbase master senior sergeant. That's an actual rank that I combined 2 ranks together.
First Master Chief Sergeant of the Space Force Corps.
All right. Well, hashtag goals.
Wow. How does that work when you? I just hypothetically, let's say you just start another branch of the military. You can't have everybody work their way up from the bottom of the totem pole. So you just appoint somebody.
Well, I think what you do is you would kind of like go to a guy and you'd be like, hey, we're starting a Space Force. Probably somebody in the Air Force, because that's like the
Elon
most
Musk.
translatable thing.
Yes.
You'd go to like Elon Musk. Yep. I was gonna say like maybe a high-ranking general in the Air Force would be like, hey, we want to build this thing called the Space Force. How would you like to be the chief master sergeant of the whole Space Force? And he'd be like, is that like the Secretary of the Navy or something? And he'd be like, yeah, but you gotta be called the chief master sergeant. And so they'd probably get like some private or something to agree to it, and some enlisted, and then he would be in charge.
So,
and then he'd get like his frat buddies or something.
I won't go too in depth with the details, but one of the like higher up guys was around at my command this past week, and he said that got brought up that Space Force is a thing, that policy is going through right now, and they're not sure if it'll last, but for here and now they got to figure out what's going on. And they were joking about what they would wear, and he's like, could you imagine if there was just a base full of guys dressed up as astronauts?
That would be dope.
Speaking of astronauts, dude,
astronaut uniforms are super fucking expensive too.
Astronauts are just incredible people. Did you guys know that in order to become an astronaut you have to know English and Russian? Did you guys know that? Yeah, because half of the ISS was built by Russians and the other half like Western Europe / America. So like so they have to be fluent in Russian. So like to read the instructions if something like goes wrong up there, because everything is like in Russian for like half of the space station.
That's nuts.
Yeah,
they didn't standardize a language.
Well, I mean, I guess when I don't know when the ISS was
Cold
built,
War.
But yeah, they were. Yeah, so they have to be fluent in Russian in order to become an astronaut. Astronauts are just the cream of the crop. They're just the best.
So
I always knew they were the cream of the crop. I didn't know they had to learn Russian.
I actually got to check out. So Neil Armstrong went through the same program that I went through right now. He obviously went on to do things that I can't even imagine of accomplishing in my lifetime. But he had all of his reports and everything put into the museum that's down here. And the one guy from the museum came into my classroom and he's like, you guys ever get beat up? And he's like, you're telling yourself you're not going to succeed because you hit a bump in the road? Go ahead and look through this. And he's like, these are the reports for every flight that Neil Armstrong had down here. And he's like, you'll notice that there's a scale between below average, average, and above average. Neil Armstrong was almost exceedingly below average at everything down here. You look at this guy's grades, all his reports for how many times he got in trouble, and this isn't like he acted out. This is he didn't prepare himself. He performed poorly on a test, like he got in trouble for that kind of stuff. and he has a just absolute book of things that he messed up. But that's so cool that he went on to persevere.
Yeah, that is really cool. Is this stuff that he wrote about himself or that other people wrote?
No, this is so he took a test and got a bad score, or he went on a flight and messed up some of the maneuvers, and there's all these critiques from his instructors underneath saying needs to improve on this, did not prepare properly for this, obviously hasn't done X, Y, and Z. And we were going through, sitting there thinking, this guy became an astronaut. Like, if someone that acted that mediocre in this kind of area, like, we have that opportunity to exceed what he did. And obviously that
sounds like he was probably just hyper talented and kind of, I've always heard that like Buzz Aldrin said that about him, that Neil Armstrong was like kind of I guess unprofessional at times. So maybe,
see, I think that's something everybody loves to tell themselves. I know I tell it to myself every now and then, and it's not true for me, but it's some people out there, I believe, where they don't perform to their maximum because they're not challenged or they're not in the right environment to like kind of cultivate their skills. And I think that would be a great example of he's in this environment where he kind of gets everything, but he doesn't necessarily want to apply himself just as much.
Yeah. I mean, maybe, dude. Maybe Neil Armstrong was just the best at what he did and just didn't try and got shit for it.
Hey,
that's
if that's what it takes to get on the moon, sign me up.
Yeah, fuck man, get me to the moon. Don't give me a spacesuit. Let me get sucked apart in the vacuum of space.
I don't need it. I'm immortal.
Yeah, I think I guess. I feel like that would suck. I wouldn't want to die in space or live forever in the cold of space because I think it's like super cold.
It is super cold.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I feel like they should buy like air conditioning, but it's probably pretty expensive.
Yeah, you don't want to heat the entire outdoors,
Yeah, like why don't we just like, that's what the ozone layer is, that's us leaving the window open. The hole in the ozone.
Oh man.
All right.
Wow.
All right, that was do you have usually we like to end these things with I guess like a question, right? So Nick likes to ask a little question.
Oh.
Do you guys
you're putting me on the spot, buddy? Here.
Yeah, I'm putting
really
you on the spot. If you don't have one,
I got one.
All right.
I mean, this will be kind of a time capsule, but I mean, you got to think. I guess 15 years down the road, what do you think will be like the most impactful like moment or like memory that you've had over your time like joining the Navy or even beforehand? I don't know, within the past, even the past. Well, I wouldn't.
I want to hear what you guys think it'll be before I give
my
answer.
We'll all answer. Okay. But Nick, you go first because you came with the question.
Man.
Are we saying what 15 years down the road am I gonna think is like the most important like moment?
Yeah.
Oh man.
I mean, that's like what like at what point did your life just like take a different path?
Well, I've had like a couple of those.
Well, which one's the biggest one?
I'm trying to think.
Changes every day.
Well, it's hard to know, right?
Well, yeah, I guess that's the fun of it.
Oh fuck! Okay, next week I'm gonna come up with a question. It's gonna be like, what's your favorite way to eat banana bread? And like, do you like butter or honey or peanut butter, and Nutella? And that's is banana bread a dessert? I don't know, some easy shit.
I'm just bringing it.
I guess the most important thing, and I'm gonna take the bullet because you two.
I got an answer,
a good answer.
But
all right, hit me with your answer because I got nothing, dude.
I think I would probably say the fall semester of my junior year. I think I just acquired a work ethic that I just didn't have before. And kind of because of that, I picked up an additional major, which I think my career will be more geared towards. So I would kind of just, I mean, is that too broad? Or
no?
So your major switch was what?
At all.
Yeah, I think. Well, your question.
You picked up a work ethic.
Yeah, no, you're wrong. No, so what you should be telling me
you just
is that
apply that work ethic.
Yeah, one day you got a phone call and somebody said, "Hey, I'm so proud of you, and I think that you're gonna make a great financial advisor." And you said, "You know what? Like that was like the push over the edge, and that is like the moment where I changed my major and said da 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 da. It's got to be like a definitive conversation or one particular action.
All right, I have something. I don't think it was the most impactful thing.
Okay.
But I definitely think it still has an effect on me because I remember it pretty clearly. So I went to a community college for 2 years before I transferred over to a 4-year university. And I did really, really well at the community college. I had like straight A's until I found out that my GPA doesn't like transfer over.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, oh, so none of this matters. So I did not try like at all my last semester. I still did fine. Like I passed all my classes. I got A's in most of them, but I was not putting in any effort. And there was one class that I did especially poorly, and I got a C. It was my only. I think I had a 1B and 1C, and that one was the C. And it was this lab. And I remember because the final project was this like it was basically like do whatever you want. You just had to like tell him what the final what you were gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, this is what I'm gonna do. He's like, great. And he gave me all the shit to do it. And I did it, and I basically was like, I'm gonna do a 50%. Like that's what I'm aiming for here, because that'll be enough. And I did that, and I like turned it into him, and he was like, hey, bud, this is trash. Like this is this is terrible. I'm gonna do you a favor because I've had you for 2 classes and you're a real good student. You can go ahead. You got another week. So like school's out, but I'll let you turn it into me next week, and then I can change your grade on this. And I was like, awesome. He's like, so I'll post the grade now. And I was like, great, yeah, that sounds good. And I went and I saw he posted the grade, and I saw that I got a C in the class, and I was like, I'm not redoing this fucking project. And I went, and so I came back to him a week later, and he like looks at me, and I'm like giving him the shit back, and he's like, hey, so you didn't because the whole project was like turned in online. He's like, hey, you didn't resubmit. And I was like, yeah, I guess I just got lazy. and then he was just like laughed, and he was like, all right, well, just so you know, I feel like if you apply yourself, like you can do like anything. And I was like, oh, thanks, man. But this had a negative effect on me because I kind of bought the my own hype and started like I took you can do any, like if you work hard, like you're a real good kid. Basically, I took that as like you can do anything, and I just like didn't try as hard. Like I went to a harder school and tried less hard. So I guess I'd say that was pretty impactful to me because it made me worse because he talked me up. So he really should have thought twice about that.
All right, so Nick, do you have a better answer?
Yeah, I would say I guess I do have a better answer. I mean, I would just say the current internship that I'm doing right now, I mean, I don't want to talk it down too much, but just like kind of just like the caliber of people that I'm like around, it's just not very like inspiring whatsoever, and I just feel like I don't know, like I did like finance stuff like in school, and even though this is like a finance type job, basically like anyone could do it. So like kind of just because of that, and I guess it kind of does tie into kind of going into the more like tech route, but just because I just have all this like free time on my hands, because I just do have a lot of free time at work. That's just the way that like this job is. Like for whatever, I just have a lot of free time. Like I've been learning how to do like code with Python and try to do some like data analytics and stuff like that. So I think that just the skill of coding with Python could transition me.
That opens a lot of doors.
Yeah,
for you.
so it's
a similar vein. My friend worked as a property manager, and I remember him telling me that like working that job made him realize that he needed to like pursue something just because of like the middle-aged people that he was working with. He's like, fuck, like I don't want like that that's just I don't want to be like them. I don't want to.
Yeah, I mean,
a lot of times.
And
I was gonna say like,
and just to be clear on mine, my message was that my teacher, like the big moment was that my teacher told me I could do, like whatever. Like he basically said that I was like really good and I could do whatever I wanted to. He had like a lot of faith for me, and I,
And you bought that load of crap.
I was like, I'm the shit. I don't need to try. I passed that class without doing the project at all. So that's kind of interesting.
All right, I guess you have.
Yeah, I think. Just to add on to yours,
what about you,
I think
this is supposed to be like
it's a lot easier, Nick, to find something that you don't want to do, as opposed to finding that one thing that really hits the nail in the head.
Yeah, definitely.
For me, my one experience for sure is, so I switched into criminal justice in college, and I was like, sounds interesting, really not digging the whole business side of it. And so careers, everyone talks about happiness with your career is finding something you can do, be good at, and enjoy while you do it. And I had an internship with Homeland Security, and the first day of my internship, I got a text that was like, wake up, 4:30, meet me here. And I had no idea, no expectations for what was going to happen. I was just like, all right, let's go see what I'm here for. And from 4:30 in the morning until about 6 o'clock in the afternoon, I was on a stakeout, and I was following these guys, and I went in with my boss, and I'm in like Staples or something, right? And I see these guys buying stuff. My boss is like snapping photos off of her phone and all this. It's just the coolest thing. And I'm sitting here just absolutely just awestruck. Like, these guys don't know who I am, but oh my God, they're drug dealers. What? This is crazy. And they come back and they go into this apartment, and I'm sitting there, and over the span of like 12 hours, my heart must have been going like 120 beats per minute the entire time. And I'm sitting here thinking like, oh, this is just like a boring old stakeout. This is what they do every day, whatever. And my boss is sitting there, they're talking on the comms, and she's just throwing little things out at me, like things you wouldn't notice every day. Like when you're driving with a walkie-talkie, you keep it below your waist, like down where the like the clutch is for the drive, for driving a car, just so anyone can't look into the car and see you have a walkie-talkie. It doesn't give away your presence. And they're all communicating, and she's throwing out these terms, and it's just like, just so fascinating all day long. And that very moment, like not that particular second, but throughout that day, we ended up like finding the guys. We went inside. My boss is like, "Ha, we were following you all day long," and I was like, "Holy shit, this is like the real time." Like, you watch law enforcement stuff all the time, but like these are legitimate drug dealers. There was this operation set up for it, and I just came in on the right day, and they were telling me stories about other stuff they did all day long. But I'm just sitting there, and I was like, "Holy shit, this seems incredible." Like, whatever it takes to get this job is what I need to do, because that's what's going to make me happy. And that was the best experience. I'm sure it will be in my mind 15 years from now.
Nice.
What a way to end the episode. So, Angus, thank you for coming on, and I know you're very busy, but love to record another episode sometime soon. Maybe after World Cup ends or something like that, or I don't know.
Yeah, we can do like a post-mortem on the World Cup.
Post-mortem after I've crashed.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have you on for that. It'll be
we'll have a live stream of your grave.
Dark episode.
Yeah,
oh Jesus!
Okay.
Look, hey, anything for the content.
That's what we're about.
If it gets views.
Yo, you would get like a 21 gun salute now, right? Like, cause you're like a full member.
Yeah, but if I join Space Fleet, I get 21.
Oh, shit.
21
you
missiles.
You get 21 missile salute. Fuck, dude, you gotta do that then. All right. That was the 4th episode of the BWG cast. I'm Stephen Warner.
And I'm Nick Borsch.
Thank you for listening, Kevin Spacey.
And NSA. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. I don't think Angus has anything to shout out, so probably already cut before this.